we're gonna create this from scratch. We're not gonna modify our old example because I have lost my old example. Apparently it won't work right now. So let's just go through this. But again, luckily it's gonna be really quick to do this with Django REST framework. So let's start this again. I have a brand new folder. We're gonna go through all the motions again, even though they're not too interesting. So Python venv.venv. There we go. All right, source that, venv, then activate. And we want to install our goodies. So we want to install, again, we've done this before, Django, Psycho PG2, and then Django REST framework is the new game in town framework. Django REST framework. All right, so let that run. All right, so maybe it's a little better that we're doing this kind of from scratch, so we'll see the whole process and how easy it is. So once Psycho PG gets its act together, there we go. All right, so I'm going to do the usual steps, create a DB. Let's call this Netflix DB2. So I'm pretty sure I have a DB1. All right, so we create a database. We need to create a Django project. Django admin start projects. Call this Netflix. Call it Netflix DRF for Django REST framework. Okay, and then Python manage.py start app Netflix app. Okay, so we have everything in place. Our database got created. We download all the libraries. I need to do a pip freeze quickly. Always good to do that. Requirements.txt. Okay, so now that's done, let's go into our projects settings. We need to do 3 things here. So our usual 2 things is add our app name, which was Netflix_app. But the new thing we need to add here, another app name called REST framework. This is so that we get access to all the goodies that Django REST framework has for us. So again, must be named this. Not optional. Can't really you can't change that to your liking. It must be REST_framework. All right, so that's one thing we had to do. We also are going to use a Postgres database. Let's quickly hook that in here. PostgreSQL. And then we want to point to our database, which was Netflix DB_2. Okay, so same stuff as before. We talked about this. We'll talk about it again because I lost my notes. Notes.py. We need to do our models. We need to do our serializers. We need to do our views, and we need to do our URLs. The difference with DRF today is models will not change. But the other 3 items, serializers, will actually incorporate a new magical class called model. We'll use model serializer from DRF. Views will use something even more magical called view sets. Model view set class from DRF. Make sure we know that these are classes. And then our URLs will use something called our router, default router, which will make our URL generation kind of standardized and almost automatic. So from DRF. Okay, so we're going to repeat what we did yesterday for our Netflix API, but we're going to do it with DRF, and we're going to see just how quick it's going to be. So let's kind of just get right to it. So first thing I want to do is go to my models.py. We're going to tackle our models. I'm going to copy this from our curriculum page because we had that, I think, yesterday. We created our models. We need to go through that whole motion again. So let me make sure I find that somewhere. All right, so copying those over in a GIF. All right, so these are our models. Hopefully with no typos. So the category, genre, product, review model. The new thing that I wanted to add, again, this is not for DRF, just to emphasize it. I'm just going to add a helper base class, and this is going to make, I'm going to use this somewhere else in my code. So this is a new base class. I'm calling it field names mixin. So we'll say this is a base class. And now, again, in addition to inheriting from models.model, which we still need to do for every model that we have, we're going to also inherit the good stuff from field names mixin, which is just a new function. They'll make my life a little easier when I need to get the field names for my model. So just to kind of highlight what this function does, I have all these fields named title, description, category. These are variables. This will let me actually get the actual text name of all of those variables that are part of my model, so that I could do something with them. All right, so these are my models. Nothing's changed from yesterday. It's the same models, I assure you. But we want to make migrations. So I'll do Python manage.py make migrations as always. We don't have a validator. We'll get rid of that validator. Who cares about validation, right? Okay, so we created 4 models. We'll do Python manage.py migrate. Again, it's all review for us, so we should be good with this. All right, models are checked off. That's done. DRF did not change anything there. Now let's go to create a new serializers file. Serializers.py. This is where we're going to use our first new shiny new tool from DRF. So we need to import from REST framework. That is that new app that we told our project about. So from REST framework, import serializers. Or I guess to do it the way I prefer it. From REST framework .serializers, import everything. All right, so this module has a class called model serializer. Model serializer. And this is going to make our life much easier. It's very similar to model form, which we briefly talked about, where we just need to tell it the specifics, and it's going to do all the generic stuff for us. So here I'm going to create a new class and call it student, wrong project. We'll call it category serializer. Serializer. Okay. This needs to inherit from model serializer, which comes from this import. So if I do model serializer, boom, there it is. So I'm going to get all the good stuff that model serializer has, and I'm going to add on top of it with my own serializer. Here, we need to follow specifically the way these classes work. And the way they work is they rely on an internal class called Meta. It has nothing to do with Facebook, the new Meta corporation. It just must be named class Meta, because Django REST framework is going to look for this specific class to do certain actions with our category serializer. So must be named Meta. All right, so it's a class within a class. Nothing wrong with that. And here, we need to tell it 2 things. It's going to do the rest. Once we tell it the specifics, we need to tell it which model is going to be associated here. So this is going to be the category model. I'm going to need to import this because my file does not know about the category model. I'm going to do from.models. Give me everything. So one thing we need to specify for our model serializer is, hey, what model are you going to be kind of interacting with? So in this case, for the category serializer, we say model equals category. And the second thing is we need to tell it which fields that it will be kind of interacting with. Which fields is it actually going to send out once it packages stuff up in the JSON, right? We saw that with our previous examples where we specify which fields. We can add new fields. We omit fields if we want to. That's the same idea here. We're telling exactly which fields are going to be transmitted from our application. We can hide whatever fields we want to here if we need to. But in this case, I want to do all of them. So I'm just going to do category dot get field names, not deferred fields. This is that new function that I made up from the base class. So just kind of understand where that's coming from. This is our custom function, not from Django. And this is going to get a list of every field, related field and direct field. So if we have foreign key fields, this will take care of it. It'll return it. And that'll be what fields this serializer is managing. That's all we need to do for a serializer here. Nothing else. This is one serializer. If I want to do 3 more, super simple. Just need to do copy pasta. John, question, comment?
So instead of using the mixin, would it be just as well to use dunder all for fields, or is that going to give different info?
So that's a great question. Dunder all does work for these serializers to a limited extent. When I was doing this on my own, for some reason, it seemed to be omitting like the many-to-many relationships or the foreign keys. I'm not sure if I just totally was blanking on something. So if I find anything differently, I will report back. But the underscore all, as I understand it, did not incorporate any related field names. So we have category, genre, we had products, and then our fourth was reviews. So we're just, again, mocking up exactly what we had yesterday, but we're doing it much quicker here. So review. And in like less than, I would say, less than 3 minutes, we have 4 serializers good to go. Whereas yesterday, probably took close to an hour to do that. All right, so product category, we want genre here. Okay, so there it is. We got 4 serializers created in almost a snap of the fingers. So again, understand the structure that you need to follow. You need to have a nested class called meta. You must specify which model and which fields that serializer will be responsible for. Okay, we're not going to worry about nested classes. I have actually commented out on our curriculum page because I don't want to get too complicated here, but it is possible to do nested serialization through some interesting means. Lyman, you have a question?
So if you didn't have that helper function, would it just be a list of strings of the field names?
Yep, you got it. We could do, want to do it like here, it'd be ID, it'd be type, and then I think tagline. But we also had related fields. So genre had a concept of products. I think this should work. Hopefully I don't screw myself up, but yeah, that's how you normally do it. I just kind of cheated here because I wanted to be kind of sneaky about it.
No,
yeah,
I like that. I like that helper function. That's awesome. I think that's a good little.
Cool. But yeah, I think in retrospect, I should just do it the manual way. So this is typically how you'll do it. You specify which fields exactly you want the serializer to manage. And these fields reflect your model field. So if I go back to genre, I have type, I have tagline, and also I have a hidden field, which is coming from a foreign key relationship. So that foreign key is right here. Actually, sorry, it's a many-to-many relationship, but it's called products. So that is another field that this serializer will now deal with. We'll see that in a second. Those are the fields I specified here. Again, these are just going to do the same thing kind of automatically. All right, so serializers checked off. Cool, we're making great time here. Next up are views. And this is, again, view sets are probably my favorite thing about Django REST framework that I've dealt with, because creating view sets is super simple. It's going from, again, like 150 lines of code we wrote yesterday to like less than 20 lines of code. So here we need to specify, we need to import from REST framework. Again, this is a DRF tool. From REST framework, we want to import from dot view sets, import model model view set. I guess I could just do an import star all, but in this case, I'll be more specific. So there's something called model view set that exists in REST framework.viewsets. This allows us, we also need one more thing. We need our serializers. So I want to import from .serializers, import all my serializers. Okay, so now for each resource that we have, we need to create a view set for that resource. What I mean by that is we create a new class. I'm going to call this category view set. That's going to inherit from model view set. So again, same thing going on here. Model view set has a lot of goodies baked into it. We're leveraging that and just going to let REST framework do all the work for us. We just need to tell it the specifics for our particular cases. So for the category view set, we need to tell it a few things. So here we want to tell it what data it's going to be using. So that it's a parameter called query set. Again, this must be named query set. This is overriding base functionality. So query set here will be category dot objects dot all. We're basically telling every category object that we have, this view set's going to know about it because it's going to interact with that data, right? When we need to add new data, when we need to retrieve data, update data, it's going to use this query set to do all that work. Okay. We also need to tell our view set what serializer class we want to use here. So serializer class. Again, these names are not custom made. This must be named query set. And then this also must be named serializer class. So this one is going to be the category serializer. Again, must be named serializer class. Again, the reason it needs to be named this is because the base class is going to refer to these items, and there's no way for it to know if we just make up our own names, right? So it's going to refer to serializer class. If I dug into model view set, I bet I'm going to see some references to serializer class that's expecting us to pass down. So serializer class. Okay, so those are the only two things you need to specify for a view set. That will do everything we did before in terms of the list all method, the the list all method, the create new method, the get detail method, the update method, and the delete method. Those view handlers are all encompassed by this one model view set. So copy pasta time, I'm gonna take that, copy it 3 times, and just do some quick renaming. So category becomes genre. I got to update a couple of places here. So we're gonna work with genre models and genre serializer for the view set there. We had products. That is another copy pasta job. And last one was review. And that is all we need to do for our views. Like, that is amazing that we did that in 5 minutes, maybe. I don't know how long we took. But this almost feels like cheating, right? Like it shouldn't be this simple, but Django Rust framework makes it this simple. But it is important to understand what's going on behind the scenes, right? So that's why we did it manually. Understand what's going on is, yes, we are going to send some data. The data is going to be extracted. It's going to be deserialized. It's going to be, we're going to update our records and then save those records to the database. This view set handles doing all of that for us. We just need to tell the specifics of what data sets it's going to use, what serializer it's going to use to transmit the data in and out of our application. I saw a hand raised and totally want to chat with you guys. Edgar, what's up?
Yeah, so why are we using like class and like model view set instead of like using a function and then like a response? Like
Good
a JSON
question.
response.
Yeah, so in the past, we created standalone functions that handled the requests, right? These classes have those methods behind the scenes. So we're using a class, but those classes still have methods and functions. So if I actually dive into model view set, let's take a quick tour of what model view set's giving us. So go to definition. So notice it inherits from 5 different base classes. Inheritance allows you to inherit from 1 or more classes. Notice that there's 5 classes here. There's 1 for create, 1 for retrieve, 1 for update, 1 for destroy, and 1 for list. Those are our 5 actions that we did before, right? So let's dive into create mode. All right, so in here, notice that there's a function called perform create. So this is what's going to be hit up most likely. Yeah, so there's no other base class here. So this is what's going to handle that request. Now, obviously, there's no request object here, but it's somewhere behind the scenes. I would take me some time to find it, but there's request here. Oh, there it is. Yeah, so this takes in that request object, and it's going to do what we did manually. It just does it kind of automatically for us at this point. But yeah, so again, the inheritance, again, you guys, if you guys are up for it, dive into the inherited code and you kind of see sort of what's going on. It's usually hard to digest, but you can kind of get an idea of how it's structured behind the scenes. All right, so those are
inheritance is beautiful.
No, go for it. No, go for it.
No, I was just gonna say inheritance is beautiful because it's like there's like all these branches that connect to like all these other branches, and then like every branch has like specific functions that like the last branch can use. And I don't know. It's pretty cool that you can like abstract everything away and then just have like a few lines of code that accomplish exactly what you want.
Absolutely. Again, OOP, so object-oriented programming, inheritance is one of the key features for it. Definitely make sure you understand inheritance. If you're still kind of fuzzy, like, I don't know what he's doing, that's fine. I don't want to discourage you. I just want to encourage anyone out there that's still fuzzy on inheritance. Make sure you go back to week 2 or watch some YouTube videos, do whatever, because inheritance is a great topic. It makes your life as a developer much easier, and you're going to see it pretty much everywhere you go. Not guaranteed, but we see it time in and time out with Django. You'll see it in many other languages that you might work with. So, all right, those are our view sets. The last thing we need to do in our checklist is we gotta go to our URLs. So let's do that process. Let's go to URLs. So go to my project URLs first. This does not change. We still need to point to our app. So I do path. This is Netflix API. We need to include our app. So our app was called Netflix app.urls. And then we need to include the include. Okay. So that's our project URLs. We still need to create our app URLs. So I'll create URLs.py in my app folder, which I had copied what all right, we don't need to copy that. So this is where things get a little different. So I'm going to copy in what we had before, if I can get access to it. But we're just going to kind of see how our routes go from what we had before to what we have now. We're not saving too much more code, but we are getting some additional functionality that we didn't have, that we had to kind of do more manually before. So I'm trying to find the routes we had yesterday. All right, there we go. Sorry. Let me copy, paste this in. So this is what we had yesterday. Right, we created a few routes. It wasn't that painful because we kind of combined a few actions in these view handlers. But this is not how we're going to do it with Django REST framework. We could, again, you could still manually define routes if you want to. You can still define manual, view handlers if you want to. Also, it's not a it's not an and situation. Sorry, it's not an or situation. It's not that you can only use REST framework or only use non-REST framework. You can mix and match as much as you want to. So this was our old code. Gonna get that out of here. Instead, we're gonna use those view sets and use something called default router. So this is another friend coming from Django REST framework. So I'm gonna import from REST framework .routers. There's a default router. There's a few different flavors, but default router is one of the simplest ones. So we're going to use this class and create an instance of it. So we're going to call this router is going to be my instance. So I create an instance of that class. And now I need to register all my view sets with that class. So what I'm going to do is router.register. And I got to pass it 3 parameters. The first parameter is the base URL for this route that we're going to create. So in this case, I have categories. So that's going to be my base here. Categories without a slash. Next, the second parameter is the view set. So again, it's very similar to what we did before, right? Where we had a path and then the view handler. But in this case, it's a view set that we pass it. So I need to specify category view sets as the manager here. And the last item is how you kind of like to name routes, right? So each of these have a prefix. That prefix is going to be category. This is going to create all my URLs for me. In this case, we only had 2, but previously we had 5. This will do that for me. And we could do that for the rest of our resources. So we had 4 resources. We're going to have, what is it? Not students, keep thinking about students. Categories, we had genres. We had products, so genre, and we had products.
Hey, Ankur, just a quick question. On the curriculum page, it says like base name in front of like the third argument that you're passing in. I'm just wondering, is there a reason that you're able to omit it? Is it based on how you imported the framework?
Sorry, base name with what?
Like where you have category at the end and quotation marks, it says like base name equals in front of it.
Oh, guess we probably need that. So I guess that's a keyword argument. Maybe there's additional parameters. Thanks, Kat, for looking out. Yeah, maybe that's something. Yeah, so it's a keyword argument after our ordered arguments. Thank you, Kat. That would probably would have caused an error for me. Then we have, all right, so these are our view sets, and these are our routes that are gonna be kind of automatically generated. So now we need to tie that into URL patterns. All right, so here we want to add a path. And that path is going to be empty string. We need to include router.urls, I believe, is how we do that. So now that we have this router, the router is going to create kind of predefined paths for us so that we have a standard kind of naming and organizational scheme for all of our resources here. So this needs to be, what is it, review. John Winko, did you have a question, comment?
That's more of a comment. So base name, it looks like it's not really required. If you go into the definition, it'll automatically set it as the view set if you don't specify it. And it's
Gotcha.
also the third argument. So that's the reason why you don't have to have base name equals on there.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. Good to know. But doesn't hurt to be explicit. Yeah. So again, it's very similar to our previous paths, right? We had the same structure where we had a URL base, who's going to handle it, and then an optional parameter named route. Same thing, essentially, what's going on here. Maybe a few differences, but here we need to include that function.
Hey,
Right,
Ankur, that first string in the router.register, is that the path? Like, is that can be the URL path?
Yeah, so it's a base path. So whatever I
Okay.
highlighted down here, the categories, genres, products, reviews, that's what
Yeah.
it's gonna be.
Do you not need to put the slash at the end?
You do not. We're just telling it the name. It's going to create the URLs for us.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, I'm pretty sure about that. If we get into errors, we'll find out. But this is creating a bunch of routes for us. It's actually print out URL patterns. Key thing is this has to be named URL patterns, another Django, Django requirement. But let's print out URL patterns. Let's see actually what URLs are generated by this router. So let's label that. Let's say URLs. And okay, I don't know if anyone was timing me. I did take some, breaks to chat about some stuff, but I wouldn't say like in a span of 15, maybe 20 minutes, we got our models, serializers, views, and URLs coded up. Like that's pretty quick compared to what we had to go through yesterday to get all this to work. Obviously, you want to test it out and see if it actually works. So with that in place, URLs checked off, views, serializers, models. Let's see if this will fire up for us. So I'm going to do Python manage.py. Did I do my migrations? I always forget. So I'll do make migrations. Okay, looks like I migrated already. So I'll do Python manage.py. Let's just run server. I don't know if I've made any mistakes. All right, there we go. That is not what I expected for URLs. So I'll need to figure out that. All right, I need to figure out how to print that out. But aside from that, our server's up and running. Let's see what we have. So this is one new additional thing that Rust Framework provides. So if I actually go to Netflix API, let's see what happens. Netflix API. All right, this is new. We have not seen this before. Normally, when I go to Netflix API, that would either tell me that, hey, this is not a valid route. You need to find a route that we know about. But this is what the Django Rust framework additionally provides. It's a front end API view that lets you kind of investigate your data. It's kind of like Postman and kind of like your admin panel tied into one. So here it shows me what routes exist. So these are routes I can go to. So I go to categories. And then this is showing me all the categories in my system right now. Obviously, we didn't create any seed data, so we don't have that. If we go to our admin panel, let's try to do that quickly. So I'll do Python manage.py, create super user, admin. Okay, so with that in place, server should be going again. Okay, I didn't register my models. Always forget one step. So here we need to do admin.register all of our good models. category, what was it? Genre, products, and reviews. You think I would have it memorized by now since I've said them so much. All right, so we have all those registered. Let's refresh here. All right, there we go. So let's create some quick data categories. I don't know what we had before. Type, oh, I do have my seed files, I think. I can use those. Give me 1 second, folks, while I pull up my seed files. Where are my seed files? Ah, there we go. Code. And expedite this process, so I don't know how to type all these in. So let's go to our fixtures, go to our project, create a fixtures folder, fixtures. In here, I'm gonna create a JSON file. I call it data.json. And then hopefully my fixtures work. I don't think I changed my data structure. Fixtures, where are you? There you are. Okay, drop that in here. So load our fixtures. Fingers crossed that I didn't change any data. Python manage.py. And you want to do load data. And then the data file is data.json. So again, Django is going to look my fixtures folder, find that data file, and hopefully load them. Cool. 20 objects that loaded. So now if you actually go back to our API view, let's refresh here. Refresh here. What pictures got loaded? Oh, my server's down. Sorry. Yeah. So now if I refresh, there we go. So these are some of the fixtures I had. So I had 3 different categories. I had TV show, movie, and specials. I don't know what specials might be on Netflix, but maybe like stand-up shows. So those are my categories. So notice I can browse my data through this API view. It's again kind of like Postman, but we can actually send post requests here. This is something we can't do through our browser normally, but we do this. If I want to post something, I should be able to, what would this do? I'm posting to the base view, so it should create a new category if I wanted to create a new category. Let's go back to API root. Now let's go to products. So we had a bunch of products. I told you guys about a great show called Dark. Hopefully you guys will check it out. Dead to Me Extract, The Bubble. Let's add a new show here. So notice the form has a lot of good stuff in it. Someone got a new show name they want to pitch to the class today?
Peaky Blinders.
Peaky Blinders. I think I've heard of it. I don't know much about it. So Peaky Blinders, description. What's a quick description you have for us?
1920s mob movie.
Okay, 1920s mob. Like it's a movie. No image. Year released. I don't know. 04, 22. Sure, it's a Netflix original. I'm just making that up. I don't know. Let's just say it's a thriller and a drama. All right. So again, we are setting. We're creating a new product, but we're also able to send the many-to-many relationships. It's going to be handled by the view set. It's going to know that it's a many-to-many. It's going to hold off on saving that until we save our product. So assuming that I've done everything correctly, let's see if this will actually work. So if I post to this route, it should create a new product. And there we go. So notice we got a new product here. It is ID number 5, Peaky Blinders. So again, this is just like what we did in Postman, but I would say even easier because we don't have to write the JSON ourselves. So there we go. We got a new product. If we do a GET request here, we should see Peaky Blinders added right there. Cool, cool, cool. Again, nothing too crazily new here. Just kind of get familiar with this interface because this is an easier way to test. So again, you can go to detail views. For example, if I go to review/1, this is the detail view for this particular review. We can make modifications. Notice this will be a put request because that's how we update. We send a put request. We can also send a delete request if we want to delete this particular item from our database. So the same concepts, everything we did before manually, we're able to do it with our DRF backend. and through this API view just to kind of make it easier. Again, we don't have to use API view. It's just for a developer convenience. You can use Postman if you want to. It'll work just the same. Okay, so it is 11:59. That is all that we really wanted to cover. What questions do you guys have about DRF? I know it's magic in a box. Definitely enjoy it, but make sure you understand what's going on behind the scenes in terms of the processes. Sean?
Yeah, can we go back to the urls.py real quick?
Absolutely.
I don't know if I missed it, but what does the base name here do?
The
I know-
base name is a naming scheme for, it's very similar to how we have like a named route. It's gonna tell DRF how to name all the routes behind the scenes. So if you go to, let's go to default router, DRF. Their documentation, I feel like isn't the greatest in my opinion, but they do have documentation. So you look at default router, they have this kind of fancy, complicated table. I hate looking at this table, but it has named routes. So whatever base name you gave, the list route is gonna be base name /list. So it's gonna be like category -list versus the detail route is gonna be base name -detail. There's some other routes in here, but it's just a naming scheme that the router is gonna do for you. Again, if you omit it, there's gonna be some default name it's gonna give to all these routes. But notice this is again exactly what we talked about yesterday, how we have one view that handles a get and a post. That's going to be your list view where you want to see everything or create a new item. That same view will handle a get and post request. Additionally, there's the detail view, which handles a get for detail, put for update, delete for removing. And then a new kid on the block, it's just really useful, is the patch request. The patch request is like an update, but you don't have to specify every single field if you're not modifying them. To see this in action, let's actually go over to our good friend Postman, and let's make a quick query. So let's go to an update of a product. So I think product 5 was Peaky Blinders. So let's try to update that. Body. All right, so Peaky Blinders. Let's say we want to update the description. We didn't give a great description. For a patch request, the only thing I need to send is just the data I want to modify. So let's say, I want to make a better description here. All right, so I'm omitting every other field. I change my put because put is a full update. Patch, which is supported by the view set, will only say, all right, cool, you're sending me this information. That's the only information I will update. So with this in play, patch description, let's see if this works. I'm not sure if I omitted something. There we go. We got a response. Notice that this is the only thing that I updated. We did not like blow away the title or category. That stuff got retained. So again, patch is really useful. Really nice to use the patch request with DRF. Again, we could implement this ourselves. It's just a little harder to do it manually, so we didn't bother with it yesterday. But yep, patch is another HTTP method that we can send to our API now. Cool. What other questions you guys have? I want to see if I could print this out. Is it .urls? Now, there is a way to print this out because I've done it before, but I'll figure that out later. Okay, so that's the magic of DRF. Makes development much quicker, and you guys are going to get some practice with it tonight. You got 2 challenges tonight. So let me stop the recording here.